Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. And we're finally going to get started on our new lower control arms. We're putting that Rubicon Dana 44 underneath our Sport. So we're using this opportunity to upgrade the lower control arms. And what we've decided to go with is these metal cloak Duraflex joints. Right? So we did a lot of research on all the different joints, and everything I've read and heard said that these Duraflex joints flex more than the rest of the joints out there. Now maybe a regular Heim joint would flex more. So if it was a daily trail rig, Heim joint all the way. But for a daily driver, these ought to offer a little bit of dampening and your max flex. One end we have the Copper tube for the ends, and on the other end we're going to weld in the bung. And we're going to use this quarter wall 1.5" ID DOM tubing. Please remember, if you like this type of stuff, like, subscribe, and share. And like they always tell you, hit the bell. Alright, so we printed out a template. You know, as usual, we go out on the website and it asks you what the diameter of your main tube is, 68 millimeters, and 2-inch tube, 58.4 millimeters, and it's at 90 degrees. Now, if we were doing a bunch of these, I wouldn't think twice about buying a hole saw. Really not a whole lot of cutting to notch this tube. Just readjusted. Alright, so I got everything notched out, all ready to go for the ends. Now, one thing nice about Metal Cloak's site is that they give you the stock length, and I verified it's 19 3/4 inch center to center on the joints. And they actually sell it at 20 3/8. So I need to know where to cut this tubing. So we're just going to we set it up here, measured to the center, and I'm leaving 3/4 inch of adjustment. We'll get this cut, prepped. I got to drill a hole on each end because we're going to plug weld these and weld around. We're going to do a root pass with the TIG welder, and we'll put a cap over it with the MIG. You know, you've seen in the past, we're a Rockmount affiliate, so we use all their abrasives, welding rods, and if you need any of this kind of stuff, tell them Jeepingmo sent you. All right, we'd appreciate that. So when you measure, you can measure center to center. If the diameters are the same, you can measure from the end to the end. Same thing. So here we just mark the tube halfway up so that we can set it up later for drilling. And then we'll just get a rough scale measurement of where we want the plug to go. The plug weld is just to hold that thread of bushing in. It's not locating anything. These are just so that when they go in, we're going to fill this hole back up with weld. We'll fill this and we'll ring it as well. So location is really that critical. So we're talking a plug weld, right? Just like when they weld in the axle tubes into a housing on the rear end. You know, same type thing. Alright, so the easy way to get this thing centered up, 2-inch tube, I know 1 inch off center. These are 1 inch thick. Now just rotate this until that line comes up top. Alright, so one just one last sanity check just to make sure that this is going to be right, because once you commit them, it's very messy if you try to take it apart. I'm at 20 1/8, and I can move that 1/4 of an inch. Remember, factory is 19 3/4 of an inch. So if needed, I can still easily make it 19 3/4. Now what Metal Cloak shows on their website is their stock length. What they set this up for, about a 3.5 inch lift, is 20 3/8. So keep in mind that as you swing the rear end down, you change the pinion angle. They push the lowers out just a little bit to adjust for a little bit of the pinion angle. So I might have just got shut down on this job. So one of these has snap rings on both sides. This one has snap ring on one side and a shoulder on the other. Alright, so did some measurements, and it looks like at some point Metal Cloak made a change and didn't phase them out in sets. So I guess the new design has a shoulder in the bottom of it that your washer goes onto. And the other design takes the snap ring that the washer goes up against. Now I measured them both, and it's, you know, they're within a couple thousandths. So it looks like we can get these welded in. It would have been nice if they would have shipped them out in sets, and that way they would have been the same. And I want to make sure I get this thing positioned right and fairly square. So this tube is an 1/8 inch wider than the housing. That's why we kind of beveled the edges a little bit. So what we're going to do is it's an 1/8 inch, so I'm going to take 2 16th inch pieces, and then I'll just clamp these 2 parallels on it, and we'll put that over the top of the tube, and that way everything will stay nice and square. And then we'll put this on there. So we'll just give it a light tap. And that way I know that it'll be square and it'll be centered. And then, like I said, we're going to put the root in with a TIG, and then I'll go over top with the MIG. I'm going to preheat this tube just a little bit. It's getting pretty cool out. Steel's a little bit chillier, so So we take the joint and we MIG the plug. Now if you're wanting to build stuff like this and you're wondering how do I know if there's any penetration, I'll leave a link at the end of this. So you can do a quick cut and etch, and the materials to cut and etch is real easy. You can use Easy Off, petroleum jelly. You just want to see how the penetration of the weld is. But we've all seen what the welds look like from outside places, and for some reason, just because they're an outside business, it's accepted. Now you can very easily weld this with flux core just as well. Pretty clear. The washer's got a square end and a round end, and so do the snap rings. Square ends go down. Somewhere they made a design change where this one has a lip on the outside where they didn't put the snap ring in. So depending on which ones you get, they'll either have a snap ring on one side or they'll have a snap ring on both sides. We'll give it a coating of the grease. I almost think they gave you enough grease for one clean. So you'd seat it, and clean off the extra grease. Square edge up. And then snap ring the same way. From when they're punched, one end's going to be sharp and one end's going to be rounded. They want the sharp edge up. And it's going to take a stout set of snap ring pliers. So just make sure that's all the way under that edge. Now on the other one, where it takes two snap rings, make sure that's all the way in. Washer square side down. Trust me, that lube makes it easy. Insert joke here, right? Let's set our length. So 20 3/8. Oh, there you go. So it's about the 16th a revolution. Alright, so that was a pretty easy build. So you'll have to get some, if you build them like this, you'll need some 2-inch OD quarter wall DOM, which will be 1.5 inch ID. Now if I was going to change anything, I'd have probably put the adjustable on both ends. But if you do that, make sure you get a right hand and a left hand. If you just weld it on one end, then you can buy just a right hander. It's pretty easy. You'll need a pair of snap rings, and if you're welding a flux core, use a flux core also. Now what we did is we did a root pass with our tartan TIG. What we did is we put a root pass in with our TIG welder, and we used Rockmount's tartan wire, and we put a cap over that with Rockmount's Polaris MIG. We are a Rockmount affiliate. So if you want any information on that, go down into descriptions. We'll put information in the descriptions as well for the joints, snap ring pliers that you're going to need. Really, that's about it. It's just cutting and notching and then weld it up. get the right length you need. And Metal Cloak puts a lot of good information on their website, so it doesn't leave you, for a lot of want for knowledge. A little anti-seize and you're good to go. So you want any information on welding or any of that, I'll leave a link up here. I'll see you in those videos. Join us when we put these under the Jeep. So until then, whether it's in the garage, on the trail, or to show somewhere, I'll see you there. This is Jeepingmo.